I'm trying to reach Lando Calrissian.
In this episode of Star Wars Uplink, we talk about Kylo Ren's outfit for Episode 8, and have Kylo Ren and Rey already met? Also, we discuss some of our favorite moments in all of Star Wars. Sit tight, because Star Wars Uplink starts right now. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink, the podcast feed surrounding and celebrating Star Wars. Join Rex Overdrive and Adam Cook in discussing what's going on in a galaxy far, far away. Hey Star Wars fans, welcome to another episode of Star Wars Uplink. We've got some tasty nuggets to talk about. I'm Rex Overdrive, and joining me is the one and only Adam Cook.
What's up, everybody? Hey, real quick before we get started, make sure you guys are hitting us up on Twitter for any questions, any top 5, top 10. We'd love to hear from you there at Star Wars Uplink, and also make sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. So we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely follow us on Twitter. That way you can keep up to date, and just follow us on social media. That way you can kind of see what we're doing with our lives, you know? What's going on at Star Wars Uplink. But anyways, we're going to get into some movie news. Movie news from the Galactic HoloNet. All right, so not too much coming out lately. As far as Star Wars news, we got Rogue One approaching. It's in our horizon. You know, I can see it in the distance. It's approaching.
It's coming soon.
Yeah, we're about I don't know, what are we, about a month and a half out?
I think so. It's usually right around your birthday, right? You get a new Star Wars film for your birthday every year now.
Yep. It's a real treat, that's for sure.
It is.
But unfortunately, we don't have any Rogue One news. And for me personally, that's kind of exciting. Because at this point, I'm kind of on the... I don't really want to hear much more as far as... I'm not going to watch any TV spots. I don't want to see any commercials, like Duracell commercials. Or I saw something online of a Nissan car commercial, and it had an ATST on there. And I didn't want to I didn't even want to look at it.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, if you're gonna get a spoiler, it can't be something like that. That's totally disconnected, unrelated. You know, it's a shame. It'd be a shame to spoil something like that. But I don't know. I don't think you're gonna see too much on there. It's just gonna be clips from the trailers.
Yeah, that's true. But anyways, let's get into our first story. And some of you might not want to... I guess some of you might consider this a potential spoiler for Episode 8. But this is not officially confirmed. We don't know if this is actually going to be in the movie. So keep in mind, this could be potential spoilers. Not anything major, just a wardrobe that we could possibly see in Episode 8. But MakingStarWars.net is reporting that one character's costume will reference that of Star Wars legend in Episode 8, implying Kylo Ren's costume in Episode 8 will look somewhat similar or close to Darth Vader's, mainly the cape. But MakingStarWars.net said, according to sources, Kylo Ren is wearing a Darth Vader cape in Star Wars Episode 8. The cape is said to be like the one Darth Vader wears in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. However, the cape does not have the same chain clasp. It is not entirely clear if this cape is the one Kylo made to resemble that of his grandfather's, or if he actually procured one of Darth Vader's capes that probably fell into the hands of collectors in the Star Wars galaxy. Now, Adam, what do you make of this? Do you like that Kylo Ren is, as we heard in The Force Awakens, I will finish what you started.
Well, I mean, at first I was trying to think, where would he get it? He has the helmet, but it's burnt, and the cape would have been burnt. When Luke was kind of burning him and taking care of that whole deal. But I would assume that there's probably some other capes. He at some point probably had to wash his cape or change it,
Yeah, he probably had a closet full.
Yeah. You'd think that, I don't know, he'd, in all of his years of battle, he would go through capes like crazy. All the blaster holes that must have been through him, So,
right.
I would assume either he got one of Vader's capes out of his walk-in closet, or he visited one of the friendly neighborhood cape shops and purchased one that was maybe similar to his grandfather's. So I have no idea. If it ends up being like a cool moment in episode 8, then I'm gonna be super bummed out that this was really spoilery. But if it's just like a cool little like background type of detail that doesn't even really make dialogue in the film, like if it doesn't even really get verbally acknowledged, then I think I'll be happy kind of knowing like, hey, that's kind of a cool little detail in the background that we got beforehand, just to kind of a tasty nugget, if you will.
Right.
But I don't know, what do you make of it? Is this spoilery to you, or is this just, what are you thinking?
To me, this isn't necessarily spoilery. Like you said, I can't imagine that they'll waste time in the script, like trying to explain his new wardrobe,
his new cloak. Yeah, his cape.
Yeah, like it's just going to be part of the character's evolution.
Right.
You had Princess Leia in episode 4, and she was wearing her nice like senator like royal attire, and then in Empire Strikes Back, she's wearing like her winter like her badass like war clothes. So I don't think they need to spend any time explaining like the evolution of his like outfit. I kind of don't want them to, I don't know, like, is it too close for like Kylo Ren to just be like worship? We know he's worshiping Vader, but like, is it, we saw that in the Force Awakens, or like how much time are they going to spend like showing that this guy is like obsessed with Darth Vader? That's really my only concern, not necessarily like the cape, or there's a little bit more that they said in this article, that his helmet will look slightly different. But I kind of hope they go the route where he doesn't even need a helmet anymore.
Yeah, and really, like his reason for worshiping him, it's not so much that he's never had any contact with him. So I mean, if anything, the reason he worships him is influence from like Snoke, and some other forces. So we'd rather see the background of that than see a continuation of him actively trying to worship and to spend time doing that. You know what I mean? Like, we want to see more, why does he worship him, more so than how much does he worship him.
Right. They need to kind of explain how Snoke seduced Kylo Ren to the dark side.
Right.
If you read the book Bloodline, it touches on how Kylo Ren finds out Darth Vader is his father.
Nice.
But I won't explain how that is. But they definitely need to explore that on how Kylo Ren was seduced by Snoke. And I don't think Kylo Ren really needs a helmet anymore. At the end of The Force Awakens, his face has a laceration all across it from Rey with the lightsaber. So, and for me, like, I always kind of viewed the helmet as like he's been fighting that conflict inside with the pull from the light. You know, he wants to be completely dark and, you know, just have the dark side ruling him. You know, he wants to go full dark, but he has that pull to the light. So I kind of viewed the helmet as kind of, you know, he kind of wanted to cover up some of his emotions, I guess.
Yeah, at a lot of the spots in the movie, you see him more vulnerable, and the parts when he's got his helmet on, that's when he's trying to impose some intimidation on others, like whether he's, you know, his first introduction when he's coming after a lot of those villagers, or if he's trying to interrogate Rey. You know, he has his helmet on, and then when he takes it off, like, she has that ability to overpower his mind and overwhelm him and make him feel vulnerable. And then again, when him and Hux and Snoke are meeting, he's obviously unsettled in that scene. He feels like he's not in control, and that he feels like he doesn't have doesn't have control over the situation, kind of making excuses for things that are happening. So, you know, we've seen him, I think in the scenes where he's supposed to be more vulnerable, it helps to have that mask off, because then you can really see that come across. But, you know, otherwise with his mask on, I think I'd almost anticipate the opposite. I'd almost anticipate that he'd have his mask on more so that he doesn't show that injury on his face. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see how they want to show him.
Right. I definitely want him to keep the mask off. At this point, he's kind of gone full heel. You know,
Yeah.
He did what he didn't think he could do. So, I mean, I don't know if they're going to go the route of trying to redeem Kylo Ren in Episode 9, kind of, you know, kind of similar to Vader at the end of Return of the Jedi. I don't know if they're going to go that route. I kind of don't want them to, because I don't want it to be too similar to Return of the Jedi. But, I mean, I want Kylo Ren to be a completely evil in this movie. I don't want to see the confliction. I liked that for the introduction of his character. I thought it was a very interesting way to tell Kylo Ren's story and kind of get us to know him and who he is and all that stuff. But in this next movie, I want him to really, I don't know, I just want him to learn from Snoke and become more powerful, and I want to see what he can do going full dark side. So I don't think Rey's gonna be able to kick his ass in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, don't you think that it's going to be a lot easier for him to show emotion, you know, either whether it be you know, conflict within him towards coming back to the light, or anger and fear and things like that. You know, both sides of the spectrum. You didn't see that with Darth Vader. So, you know, I think that's a good point. We want to see his mask off and, you know, hopefully have a great performance delivered that's going to do things that they haven't been able to do in the past.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely the best way to to get attached to a character and get the most out of a performance when they're not having to wear a mask. Let's hope we get a little bit more out of Captain Phasma in this next movie. But
be hard to have any less.
I know. But do you have anything else to say regarding the wardrobe of Kylo Ren?
As long as I don't have it like spoon-fed to me where Snoke is like, you know, here, Kylo Ren, here is your grandfather's cloak or cape, you know, like if that's the case, I'm gonna be like, oh, that's so stupid. Like, why would they let that get out and, you know, blow some detail like that? But even if they did, I don't think I would really. I don't think it's a big enough of a deal that I'd feel it was a huge spoiler. But
well, in some of the recent Star Wars canon novels, I won't specify which one, but they have made it clear that there are people, whether it's the First Order or the New Republic. I won't say any names, but there are people that do collect Imperial artifacts, whether it's helmets or clothing or anything. So I could see that being tied into this, and maybe that's how they explain how he gets his cape. But maybe they probably won't even mention why. It's just gonna be there, you know.
Right.
I don't see any reason to spend any time on it. I mean, are they ever going to explain how he got the helmet? Did he go dig it up off Endor? Or steal it from an Ewok? I mean, you know, it's just things like that aren't really necessary. I mean, they didn't spend any time explaining how Luke's lost lightsaber from Cloud City ended up at Maz Kanata's. She just said that's a story for another time or something like that. So they'll probably just go that route, which I'm completely fine with.
That lightsaber could end up being like it's like a Lord of the Rings, you know, like the story of that lightsaber, you know, getting passed along, and you know, they could follow it just like they followed the ring in the Lord of the Rings movies, almost. People dying along the way for it.
Now, I felt this way about that scene where Maz Kanata says the lightsaber, it calls to you. and at the duel scene between Kylo Ren and Rey on Starkiller Base, when that lightsaber goes flying towards her, did she really use the Force and have that fly towards her, or is it just magically flying at her?
Ooh.
I think she did have her hand out like she wanted it to pull it using the Force. But I mean, like the Force visions touching the lightsaber and how it calls to you, I don't know. From the moment I saw that, it just felt very like Harry Potter-like with the wands.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like the wand chooses the wizard or whatever kind of thing.
Yeah, it just growing up loving the Harry Potter movies and have read some of the books, like, I don't know, it felt a little, I don't know, just not necessarily, I don't know. I just got kind of like,
well, it's mystical, you know. It's all it is it's reminiscent, you know. I think it's you're just kind of acknowledging that it's similar to something that was also, you know, that had a sense of wonder. So I mean, I mean, anytime it's possible that if something is enchanted, if something has some kind of overwhelming, like, or if something has a history to it, you know, these people that have the ability to see the past and see the future, I think that's where that stems from, is they're touching that lightsaber and they're maybe seeing into their past or into their future. And, that's kind of the same thing that you see with Lord of the Rings, or I don't know. It's a similar theme that's been used with other stories. It's good storytelling. I don't think it was done too similar, but I think you made a point that it's somewhat parallel.
Yeah, I think it's just something they need to just be careful with.
Yep.
You don't want to taint the Force. You don't want to get on midichlorian levels here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's all I'm saying. I don't dislike it. It's just something that they need to be cautious of.
Right.
But anyways, let's move on to our next movie news story. This is also a Kylo Ren and Rey topic here. J.J. Abrams made a comment with the upcoming release of the Force Awakens Blu-ray, the 3D Blu-ray that comes out shortly. He stated, "One of the new relationships that we are focusing on was between Kylo Ren and Rey. They've never met, but he's heard of this girl." So there it is. Kylo Ren and Rey have never met. So I think that debunks the theory of Rey being a Skywalker.
Right. Well, maybe.
Well,
I mean, did Luke and Leia ever meet, or were they immediately split up after? You know what I mean? I mean, that I'd like to see his facial expression when he said that. Did he say it with some? Did he say it very casually, like it wasn't a big deal? Like, yeah, they've never met. Like, it's real? Or did he say they've never met?
I don't know. I don't know if there's video of this statement.
Like, maybe like technically.
Well, I mean, okay, I guess we can't completely rule out the option that she could be a Skywalker, but I think it's highly, highly unlikely that she is.
Yeah.
And we definitely get the scene right after Finn and Rey escape Jakku with BB-8 on the Millennium Falcon.
Yep.
The First Order officers walks into the room where Kylo Ren is and has to lay down some bad news. And once he mentions that a girl was with Finn and BB-8, Kylo Ren reacts pretty harshly.
Right.
Like he knows that it is Rey.
Right.
So there is some significance of who Rey is. He knows of her.
Yeah. I mean, you really, it's really thick and obvious in that scene. Like he's aware of that presence. And, they talk about there's been an awakening. And is it about the awakening? Did he feel it at the point of that awakening? Or has he known of her, for some time? So I'm very curious, and I think even more so after hearing this, because, he kind of closed a door and then maybe opened up 3 other ones, for us to think about. So I don't know. I think I'd prefer if he just like debunked a rumor of them being siblings, rather than saying they've never met. Because it's just kind of like, oh, well, what do you mean?
Yeah, because that doesn't really rule out anything. Because all he said was they've never met. Were they in Jedi training with Luke Skywalker?
Well, it's like
at some point,
it's like Obi-Wan saying that Vader, murdered and destroyed your father or whatever he said.
Yeah, he kind of bent the truth to yeah.
So
bent
is
the truth to
JJ doing
keep
the
him
same
safe.
thing by saying they've never met? Like if
I mean, it's possible. And I mean, there's got to be some significance that Leia hugged Rey before hugging Chewie after the death of Han.
Their hug was totally like they knew each other for a long time. We're well aware of that, and there was very little time in there for her to understand if there was a connection between her and Han. I watching it the first time thought, they're embracing each other because they both cared for Han Solo. They were bonding over them, Rey being new, she still cared for him because they had this adventure together. And then Leia, obviously, for, greater reasons, but they embraced each other in grievance for him. But the second time I watched it, I was, looking a little bit deeper, a little closer, and I saw that and I was like, what the hell is that? And really, there's something there. There's something to that, and I don't know. I mean, that's at the root of my suspicions about, how he said that, how he said they have never met. Like, I still don't think that, we're dealing with an unrelated character. I think there are things in her past that we're going to learn that are going to tie a lot of different angles together.
Definitely. And they do a great job to make you wonder who she is. There's the moment in Maz Kanata's castle right after I think Rey leaves. Maybe it's when she goes downstairs, but it's right before that, and Maz Kanata says to Han, "Who's the girl?"
Yeah.
And it's not like she's nobody, like the way that was asked.
Right.
Like Maz Kanata, just the way that was said. Maybe they're just trying to toy with us because they know Star Wars fans, try to nitpick every little detail and try and.
And how great would it make The Force Awakens if after you see episodes 8 and 9, you go back and you realize, like, hey, this movie wasn't just some simple remake that was totally parallel to episode 4. Like, after you see 8 and 9, all of these other layers kind of get peeled back, all these offhand comments, all these little moments, with each one, say they are able to develop and pull back another layer, like a scene like that, if it uncovers something totally important to the plot, totally important to character development, like that would be such a cool thing to see, and such a I'd have to give J.J. Abrams a ton of credit, especially considering he's not directing the next two. So to set that in motion, that would be such an incredible thing. So I really hope that they're able to do something like that where they can pick up on the subtleties of episode 7 and really drive for some depth and some real development there.
Right. I'll be completely fine if they go the route that Rey is just a scavenger on Jakku, and her parents just left her there, and she doesn't have a relationship, or she's not the daughter of anyone, I would be fine with that. But for me, I just want a little more connection, especially if she's going to be our hero. Even if it's just she was a Padawan training with Luke Skywalker, and she's one of the ones that Luke Skywalker saved and dropped off at Jakku.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a hard thing to just imagine who this character is. Either way, I'm going to be completely fine with it. And if they go the route that she's just a girl, a scavenger, and they do such a great job of getting us attached to this character and loving this character, I mean, that's even better. That they don't have to make her related to an already existing character. So
yeah, I think casting is key there, because we're already, I think, I haven't heard one negative review of her performance or anything like that. So I really think that they chose the right person for the role, and that sense of mystery and everything tied into that, it's just really, I think, been a win-win.
Right. All right, so I think that's going to do it for that article. Now we're going to jump into a little thing I like to call Mind Probe. And we're going to be talking about our favorite moments in Star Wars. That's right, you're going to get to learn a little bit more about us and just our background with Star Wars. So Adam, lay down one of your favorite moments in Star Wars.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to go in chronological order.
Okay.
For the saga here, but my first would be, and we've touched on it before, Luke on Dagobah the first time. So we're talking about Yoda, his first initial meeting with Yoda, and the both the comedic side of things, the fun digging through the bags and him not knowing he's Yoda yet, but also, I guess, my all-time favorite moment in that sequence or in that act is him raising that X-wing out of the water. So he's beat, he's tired, he's been training, he can't do it, he gives up, he thinks it's too big, and Yoda, just the little little Jedi that he is, just raises that thing out, and John Williams just pumps that score, and probably one of the coolest, most epic, mesmerizing moments of the whole original trilogy. So that for me was I want to use the Force. I want to be Luke Skywalker. That is just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Right. And it's one of the first moments that you actually get to see the true power of the Force. Someone do something so huge, moving an X-wing out of the swamp onto land.
Yeah, and I mean, it comes at a moment where he thinks that he should just be able to just do this stuff. He feels like it's all physical. He's sweating and he's exhausted and he's breathing so hard. It kind of reminds me of the Matrix when Morpheus is you think that's air you're breathing? It's like that. It's it's not a physical thing. It's about clearing your mind and focus and just kind of believing that you can do it. So It's a theme we've seen in tons of different movies, whether it be like Peter Pan or The Matrix or, Harry Potter or whatever. But Star Wars, maybe started it right there. So the next one would be, I'm actually going to skip to episode 7 on this. And just to kind of explain how my next two could be from episode 7. I believe that when I watched episode 7, I had so much, I was anticipating it so much that I feel like maybe my emotions were escalated a little bit. So, so when I think back of like the moments that like made me so like, gave me goosebumps or whatever, a couple of these stood out to me. And that next one is the intro to Kylo Ren. So the opening scene of episode 7, Kylo Ren's transport lands on Jakku, and he walks out and stops that blaster shot. So I don't think we have ever seen anyone on the light side or the dark side stop a blaster shot in midair. Is that correct? Do you feel like we've ever seen that before?
To my knowledge, we have not.
Right. Precisely. So, in this scene, that was like, holy shit, like this guy is a badass,
Yeah, I think I crapped my pants in the theaters.
Exactly. And then on top of that, his voice, like,
oh yeah,
depending on what
great.
theater you're sitting in, it was just like Vader, but crank up the bass, and it was pretty cool. And the scene also had some comedy to it, some levity in there as well. That we saw, that whether I think the line was like, "So do you talk first? I talk first," that kind of thing. So that was kind of cool to see as well. But that blaster shot as he drags Poe Dameron toward the ship, they walk by it and he kind of looks at it and it's still humming, just sitting there floating in the air like that. Like that was pretty awesome. And my third, so fast forward to the very end of episode 7, the Jedi Steps. That scene of them flying in, and they took us up that mountain on the island so slow, and really let the score build up. And, the reveal of Luke at the end pulling his hood off, I just was like, pretty much like, just like crying at the end of that thing. I think they had like, however many millions of grown men just sitting there like goosebumps and tears. And so, that for me, like leaving the theater after that, I was just like, oh my God, we have to wait like 2 years for the next one. I will die. Like that was so good. I have to have more. So, So those are my 3. They're probably not the same 3 I had last year or the year before that. They're always changing because there's always something else out there that, I probably have like 15 of them that I could rotate in there, but and
absolutely.
I'm sure that a couple of them are on your list. So let's get into yours.
Okay, so as I've told you, my favorite Star Wars movie is Empire Strikes Back. I think that's the best movie.
Yes,
you've
made this clear on many occasions.
Crystal clear. But yeah, that's my
crystal
favorite.
Clear?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But 2 of my favorite moments are from The Empire Strikes Back. First is the asteroid field scene with the Millennium Falcon after they depart from Hoth. And I just think that's that's just one of those scenes that showcases the awesomeness of the Millennium Falcon.
Do you remember what the odds of successfully navigating through an asteroid field are?
Oh, I don't know. What was it?
I don't know.
1 in a million or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Yeah, he says it. They tell him to shut up.
Yeah, I don't really
C-3PO.
take pride in trying to learn C-3PO quotes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
You're probably
just-
in the clear on that one.
yeah. But just the John Williams score, it's so magnificent. And just the way the Falcon soars through the asteroid field, being chased by the Star Destroyer, it's magical. And at the end, they lose the TIE fighters. The TIE fighters get annihilated by the asteroid rocks that are floating in space, and they lose the TIE fighters, and then the Falcon does an ever so what's the word I'm looking for? Elegant backflip into the canyon crater.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Right into
And
that
just-
creature's belly, right?
Yeah, and then you have the Minox that suck on the windows in the hull of the Millennium Falcon. But
Do you think that Harrison Ford's piloting in that scene was part of the way that he was able to what do they call woo or court Princess Leia? Do you feel like after that she was like, man, this guy,
probably
he's a stud, you know?
Yeah. Well, and just the tension while he's piloting the Falcon with Chewie and the co-pilot, and they're yelling at each other.
Yeah.
It's great. And then you got C-3PO spouting off odds of
It's
dying.
pretty funny. I mean, Harrison Ford really killed it.
Don't tell me the odds. Or never tell me the odds.
Never tell me the odds. Yeah. Yeah.
It's great.
Awesome. It is.
For me, it's one of the top moments, but I mean, for any Star Wars fan, that scene is one of the best.
Yeah, and that's something that the prequels lacked big time. Like that stuff.
I feel like they tried to mimic it with Obi-Wan being chased by Jango Fett.
Right, but it wasn't funny at all, you know?
No,
I just mean like that banter back and forth, like, you know, they'd throw R2 in there, like killing droids or zapping them or whatever, but they didn't have anything that was as good as Han Solo and Chewie and C-3PO, and, you know, they just had such a great mix. It's hilarious.
Definitely. All right, so my next favorite moment is from The Empire Strikes Back, like I said earlier, more towards the end of the movie. The lightsaber duel between Luke and Vader at Cloud City. To me, that's one of my favorite lightsaber battles. And say what you will about the prequel lightsaber fights, they're fancy and they're intricate, but they lack the power.
Yeah.
The lightsaber duel between Luke and Vader on Cloud City, they're throwing their entire weight at those what do you call them? You know what I mean. They're throwing their weight behind their lightsaber.
When they swing the lightsaber?
Yeah.
Strike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're throwing their weight.
It made it seem like a lightsaber was a heavy weapon.
And I watched a
little
documentary or just a video of George Lucas, and he wanted them to act like the lightsaber for the sheer amount of energy in the lightsaber, he wanted them to act like it weighed a lot.
Yeah.
So he wanted them to put a lot of their weight into the lightsaber swings. And I mean, if you're comparing that lightsaber fight to the one between Obi-Wan and Vader in A New Hope, I mean, it's night and day.
Yeah.
A New Hope, that lightsaber fight, they're pretty much like trying to poke each other.
Right. Right.
So, and then he
outforces him too. He clearly shows the gap in his abilities. It's kind of a benchmark moment for Luke because he realizes that he is not up to par. Like, he can't contend. He thinks he can, and Yoda warned him about it. And now it's like, you're in the battle and you're not ready. What are you gonna do? And I'll let you finish. But I think that's an important detail is that Vader uses the Force on him and doesn't even need to fight him with the lightsaber in the end, which was something cool that I don't think we all expected that to happen. No, and that lightsaber fight leads up until the big reveal in all of Star Wars. Yeah,
the big twist.
Reveal. Even if you haven't seen the movie, you know what happens, right?
Yeah, you can quote the scene. So I really wish I could have experienced that moment in theaters in 1980 and just experiencing that moment in real time, like what would that have been like to hear Darth Vader for the first time in 1980 say, "Luke, I am your father." I think that would have just been incredible and just jaw-dropping.
Yeah, mind blown kind of thing.
For sure.
I mean, over the years, it's earned some interest over the years. It's marinated over the years and gotten better like a fine wine, So like, obviously, the more people have used it, the larger its influence has become. But at the time, I mean, it was probably a big deal. It's a big reveal
for sure.
And, so. But I think for us, looking back on it, it's easy to say that because it's such a staple. It's such an iconic thing, and but there was probably also a lot of people that maybe went and saw it and maybe they didn't like it or they thought it was stupid too. I shouldn't say that, but I'm sure there are people out there that thought the same thing. So I don't know. I mean, you either love it or you don't like it.
Right.
But we love it, obviously.
Definitely. Cherish it.
Yeah.
All right, so the last favorite moment. Well, I don't want to say that. It's just the last one we're going to talk about for me.
Sure.
And I think it's that pivotal moment in the original Star Wars trilogy. It's what the trilogy was going towards. The throne room scene in Return of the Jedi.
Oh yeah,
on the Emperor's Super Star Destroyer. That scene, I mean, Return of the Jedi started out with Luke in his black outfit. People were wondering if he was gonna be. I mean, they kind of teased it at the start of the movie that
he was gonna be dark.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
With his mechanical hand like his father.
For sure. And just the way Ian McDiarmid played the Emperor in that scene, he just did such a great job trying to influence Luke to turn to the dark side.
I mean...
Now, fulfill your destiny.
He's just one of the greats for Star Wars, and
And he puts his lightsaber out there and just says, "Take it and strike me down." Like, oh my God. Like, just so really just egging him on, like just so much pressure. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Just relentless. He had him in a corner. He's like, your friends are going to die. What are you going to do? You have no option aside from just striking me down. And Vader's there to protect him. Like, they just had him in a corner, and the way he got out of it is just... And to think about, too, the other thing I was thinking about this scene is after you watch the prequels, say what you want about the prequels, but to watch the prequels through this point, getting through the 6th movie with that background in there, like to think about, we're sitting here with Palpatine, Vader, formerly Anakin Skywalker, and Luke, his son, finally in this room, given everything that's happened, and it's going down, like to think about that, it really adds a sense of, it's sheer like epic proportions, the dialogue, it's all just hitting on all cylinders. It's all just done so well, so climactically. So,
and the way they switch scene to scene from the throne room to what's happening outside of the Death Star.
Yeah,
during that battle over Endor, it's just the way they shot that. It's just so climactic, and it builds.
Yeah. Admiral Akbar, it's a trap.
Right. And when they're in the throne room, you can see out the window, and you can see the battle over Endor.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see the little lights flickering out there, the little battle going on.
Yep. One of the greatest moments in all of Star Wars, for sure.
And he's successfully able to find that tiny little ounce of the light deep within Darth Vader and get him to, to be his father again and protect him and save him. And he gets it. He's successful. Like, that small glimmer of hope that he knew was there, like he trusted that it, he had it in him, and he did. So it's just a nice, hopeful idea too, to have that ending, that George wasn't going to let us have anything other than that hero's happy ending to the saga, you know what I mean? And that's what makes it so great. Like as cartoony, or as like, whatever they call it, like a Saturday morning type of thing. Like if it's just got to have that classic hero happy ending to it, and that's what's great about it.
Definitely. All right, I think that's it for our favorite moments in Star Wars. We'll have to definitely talk more about these. Some other moments that come to mind. Maybe some of the moments that we hate in Star Wars. Not everything can be great, right?
Pretty much any scene that was remade. That's a story for another time, though.
Yeah, hopefully they'll release the original Star Wars trilogy on Blu-ray.
Music numbers that perhaps took place in Jabba's palace, perhaps.
Yeah, I have to skip that every time. But like you said, that's a story for another time. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Star Wars Uplink. Before you get going, head over to iTunes and subscribe to this podcast feed. That way you can stay up to date with our podcast episodes. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, may the Force be with you.